Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the breakfast. Let me first tell you the little format. We'll have Mark Moeller go ahead with his introduction as an institutional investor. Mr. Lee Howell, who's on the extreme left, the World Economic Forum. Then I'll say a few words, and of course, no introduction to the president. He doesn't need introducing. And then there'll be question. The president will say something, question and answer, and then we'll just have a short conclusion. Mark.
I'd like to welcome everyone. I don't know if this is working. Hello? Great. Hi, I'm Gary Mueller from Institutional Investor. I'm the CEO. We'd like to welcome you here to the breakfast with the president. We've been publishing for 40 years and have covered Pakistan with interest during those 40 years. We just recently did a Pakistan report that's in its 5th year, of which we featured the country, and we look forward to the discussion here. We find Pakistan is a very poignant and interesting topic from many perspectives, politics, economics, et cetera, and we're delighted to be part of this. I'd just like to highlight, we're always looking at good stories, and so if you have any ideas, please come forward to us. I was talking to Professor Stieglitz before this, who talked about our Harvard piece. If you have any ideas, we're always open to hear them. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the World Economic Forum, my name is Lee Howell. I'm responsible for the Davos program of the annual meeting, as well as our activities in Asia. And again, thank you, Mr. President, for joining us this morning. I'm hoping that we could focus a bit more on the economic side, because it's a great story in terms of what's happening in Pakistan, over 6% growth. But I also wanted to link it back to this year's annual meeting program. We've highlighted a series of sessions, 4 of them. One is globalization of finance, and I think many of you have participated in the sessions. But there are 3 other series of sessions that I think very much are linked to what's happening in Pakistan. One is on water, one is on food, and one is on urbanization. And I think it's very interesting to understand these 3 important trends and issues from the context of a middle-income economy such as Pakistan. So I hope you can share your thoughts, Mr. President, on really how you're dealing with the issues of, for example, food. I know that, of course, Pakistan is a great exporter of agriculture, but also we're also facing the pressures of increasing food prices, as well as water and, of course, urbanization. So I want to, if I may, have you focus a bit on that. But again, thank you very much for coming all the way to Davos. It's a great honor to have you again this year.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Gary. Now, just wanted to put in a few thanks before I think. First of all, let me recognize at this point Colette Mathur, who's been with the World Economic Forum for many years, and a great supporter of this breakfast, and who's not with the World Economic Forum now, but still is here in this room. I just wanted to say thank you to her. Thank you to Colette. And of course, Beatrice, I think she just left because she had to go somewhere else. I want to recognize Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz, who was in the breakfast with me and who has had tremendous to do with the economic reforms and the economic stabilization of Pakistan. Thank you for being here, Shaukat. I would like to recognize also First Secretary Aftab Khokar of the Pakistan Embassy, because of the tremendous work he's done to help set up the logistics for this. Then my loyalists who are always here, Princess Jeet and Nan, Drew and Rati, and Jamshed and Feroza. I always welcome them. Hussain Dawood, who's here, titan of our industry. Please, Hussain. And also, I want to especially recognize Arif Naqvi. Arif is outstanding, one of our outstanding Pakistani businessmen, world class. When we say international class, we really mean that, Arif. Thank you for being here. Now, about 8 days ago, I told the president that the response is so good, I don't know whether it's negative or positive. And I said, should we go ahead with this breakfast? And he said, yes, we will go ahead with the breakfast. How will we overcome this negative unless we talk to the people? And for that, I thank you for having that attitude. And I must say that, a lot of people say some things about the media. Over the last 9 years, I spent a lot of time criticizing him in many issues. Believe me, not once in 9 years has he ever told me anything. Because his rule is very clear. If you're not personal and you're productive, make the productive criticism. So I stand here and I acknowledge that because that is what is required. And I did say a few unpalatable things, which, normally you shoot the messenger bringing bad news, but he didn't. So I'm here.
Well, that doesn't mean I don't know how to shoot.
The other thing I want to tell him that, I got my son over, who's a partner, very proud of him. He's the youngest partner with Clifford Chance, joint head of the Asset Finance Division. I flew him in from New York, especially with Clifford Chance. And I said to him, a time I learned, somebody gave me a golf set 10 years ago, said, learned golf. And I thought the president would take it not as a hint. He said, maybe we can play golf together sometime and go fishing maybe, next year. I must tell you, I know the president for the last 44 years. I was entering the academy when he was leaving the academy. In the academy, there's a peculiar thing when you are graduating, there is a banner party. Somebody holds the Pakistan flag and somebody holds the academy flag. As the battalion junior under officer, the president was holding that flag. And now holding that flag is tough because you have to keep your arm up for 45 minutes in the actual ceremony, but when you're practicing, maybe 1.5, 2 hours. And it's a tough job, and I told him that you were holding the banner up 44 years ago, the Pakistan flag. Today, 9 years later, symbolically, he's still holding the Pakistan flag. And I'm sure he will let you know himself when he's going to pass on that flag to somebody else. Mr. President.
Thank you.
No, sir, you can use that if you want.
Can everyone hear me?
Can we have a mic here, please?
I have been giving cautions in the military academy, so I can talk louder. Okay? Yeah. I think this is much better. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, let me express my gratitude to Ikram Sagal, my friend, for arranging this breakfast. This is the third time I am addressing a gathering here at such a breakfast get-together. So thank you very much, Ikram, and thank you very much, everyone, for being here and giving me this opportunity of speaking to you on Pakistan. I will certainly cover the economic aspect, but I thought I'll cover Pakistan in a broader perspective, as I understand. In fact, I thought I will take a very holistic picture of whatever we have sustained over the years, where we stand, and how I see the future. Because this is essential, because I think there is a degree of misperception surrounding Pakistan, some distortions of realities, some lack of understanding of what we have gone through and what we face. So therefore, I thought it is important to trace back or recapitulate what we have gone through over 30 years in a very brief manner, in a very cursory manner, but it is important to recapitulate. Why it is important? Because I personally feel that it appears as if the world thinks that Pakistan is perpetrating all the ills in the region and within itself, while we are the victims of whatever has happened since 1979. So that is what I would like to start by, to recapitulate. Ladies and gentlemen, back in 1979 till 1989. For 10 years, we launched, and when I say we, I mean United States, I mean the West, and Pakistan. We launched a jihad. We called it a jihad. And we brought about 20 to 30,000 mujahideen from the whole world, from the whole Muslim world. And we trained Taliban. We armed them and we sent them into Afghanistan to fight the Soviets. ISI and Pakistan were in the lead role. Our intelligence organization and Pakistan were in the lead role, assisting United States and the West. We did a good job, and we won a victory in 10 years. And the result of this victory was the end of the Cold War, disintegration of the Soviet Union, reunification of Germany, collapse of the Berlin Wall. This was the result of our military victory in 10 years. A great job done. Had effects on the whole world. Pakistan and inter-service intelligence of Pakistan was in the lead role, played the key role in all this. This is Pakistan's contribution and ISI's contribution to the free world. But then let me say that beyond 89, we bungled up the end game. We could not culminate the military victory into political victory. This is the reality as I see it. So therefore, there was a disaster. The military victory got soured, and it led to political defeat. And how? See the period between now 89 and 2001, 9/11, 12 years. What did Pakistan suffer, and what did this region suffer, Afghanistan and Pakistan? After the military victory, Soviet defeat, everyone left the scene, including United States. I'm going to talk very frankly, ladies and gentlemen, so that we know and recapitulate whatever we've suffered, because then we have to come to how we meet the challenges. In these 12 years, we were alone. Pakistan was alone and Afghanistan was alone. And the militarized mujahideen, about 30,000 of them. When I say militarized, because we armed them, militarized to the teeth. And the Afghans and the Taliban. Militarized to the teeth because the Soviet army withdrew, left all their greased aircraft, tanks, weapons right there in Afghanistan. And also all the stocked ammunition and weapons given by the West in tunnels in Afghanistan left there, armed to the teeth. This mujahideen were reinforced after the Soviet collapse by Chechens, Uzbeks. For 12 years now, warfare, warlordism, each tribe in Afghanistan destroying the other, ravaging the country. Uzbeks, Pakhtuns, Tajiks, Panjshiris, Hazaras, fighting between themselves. 4 million refugees in Pakistan. And who is there to assist Pakistan? Nobody. We were fending for ourselves. For 12 years. And then the biggest of hurt was that this strategic ally, Pakistan, of 42 years, from 47 to 89, the strategic ally of the West, was ditched. And there were sanctions imposed on Pakistan. So we endured that, carried on enduring for 12 years, all alone. Mujahideen coalesced into Al-Qaeda. Osama bin Laden is a product of the Mujahideen who we brought. And Taliban phenomenon came in 1995-96. Who is there to assist us? We are all alone. Pakistan is all alone. Everyone has gone. The feeling in the people of Pakistan that we were used and we have been ditched. So this is what we endured for 12 years. And this was the result of all that. And with all this, ladies and gentlemen, also erupted the freedom struggle in Kashmir. And there were certain emotional attachments of people of Pakistan with the people of Kashmir. It continues. And therefore, there were a lot of innumerable freelance Mujahideen groups who were certainly had emotional attachments with their brethren in Kashmir. All that also, the fallout was again on Pakistan. So in nutshell, I thought I must give this out. Our national fabric was torn. Before 1975, 1979, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan was absolutely a normal, peaceful country. This is what happened from 1979 to 89, and then 89 to 2001. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that much for the background. I would like to come on to where I came in now. I came in 1999 when all this had happened. And from, frankly, till 99, we had reached a stage where Pakistan was in near collapse. Our economy was in near collapse. We were almost a failed state, a defaulted state, technically defaulted state. We started the job of correcting Pakistan. And Shaukat Aziz is here. I got him from Citibank. I never knew him. And let me give to his credit, when I was headhunting, because I didn't understand anything of economics or finance. So I was told about him, and when we checked out, I thought I must get him over. I rang him up, and I told him, you want to carry on in Citibank or you want to serve your nation? And if you want to serve your nation, let me tell you, I'm not going to pay you even 1/100th of what you're getting in Citibank. And I saw him, he came, and he didn't take any pay. So we started the job, and we thought that we have to correct the economy of Pakistan. We corrected the economy of Pakistan. Without going into detail, just to give you broad figures, today, from the failed state, Pakistan's economy is on an upsurge. Our GDP growth over the last 5 years is 7%. In spite of all that you may be hearing in the newspapers and in the media, Merrill Lynch projects Pakistan's economic growth this year at 6.8%. The Economist last page, if you see it, shows Pakistan's growth 7%. We hope to achieve 6.5 to 7%. The finance minister of ours is sitting there. He keeps saying, no, we will go beyond 7%. But I want to keep the target low so that we achieve more than the target. So this is a great achievement. Our per capita income has more than doubled. Our GDP on the whole has grown by 125%, the total GDP. Our investment, foreign investment, has grown, if I was to shock you, about 3,000%. are because of the per capita income which has grown so much and economy doing that much better. The purchasing power of the people has increased, demand has increased, supply is not keeping pace with demand. Therefore, demand-supply gap has increased, and therefore, profitability in any investment in Pakistan has increased to the extent that there are about 700 companies functioning in Pakistan, foreign companies. They have made profits of up to 60%, and you'll be surprised that is the reality. Some have made profits of over 50%. I don't think you can make profits in double figures anywhere in the West. But here, because the demand-supply gap is so much, and because the purchasing power is so much, this is the detail of the profitability in Pakistan. There is investment coming in, as I said, 3,000%. With all that is, you may be again hearing. I'm going to clear those misperceptions a little later. Let me inform you that the Barclays has just come into Pakistan. I met the president of Barclays yesterday. China Mobile, the biggest telecommunication company, has come into Pakistan. The chairman was sitting with me yesterday. They have invested $800 million. He was saying they are going to invest another $800 million now to develop the infrastructure. The success story of our telecommunication is that we had only 600,000 mobile telephones 5 years back. Today, we have 76 million mobile telephones. This is the growth in 5 years. Our tele-density was 2.9%. Today, it is crossed 50%. This is the growth in 5 years. So, in the overall context, investment in Pakistan is booming. Our economy is doing well. This is because we started on a policy of deregulation, liberalization, and privatization. And we went very strongly with it. To quote the example of the banking sector, which has been a great success of ours, 85% of our banks were in public sector before. Today, 85% of our banks are in the private sector. And they are all doing very well. Therefore, other banks are coming into Pakistan. So I don't want to go into more details, but I would like to give out, because I'm trying to elaborate on the economic side of Pakistan, that Pakistan is a population of 160 million people, growing fast. Unfortunately, this is one area where we have done very well all through since our independence. We are trying to check that. We are at 160, 165 million. And if you see our strategic location, we are in the center of 3 regions: the Gulf and Middle East on the west, Afghanistan, Central Asia in our north, all looking southwards, towards the sea and towards trade with Europe or Africa or Asia or South Asia. Then the western regions of China, western China, and in our northeast, and India and South Asia on our east. We consider Pakistan as a trade and energy corridor. Why I say that? Because there is no possibility of any trade and energy interaction between these regions, who each want to interact with each other, is possible without Pakistan. Just not possible without Pakistan. So therefore, Pakistan is a hub, and Pakistan must be treated as a hub and not a standalone country. So any investment in Pakistan means you are at the center of all this region, and with a population of 160 million people, whose purchasing power is increasing. So therefore, this is frankly, the economic picture. I have cut out all our macroeconomic indicators today are positive. Our debts were rising, but the main indicator of debt to GDP ratio, which stood at 101% in 99, today is at 52%, which is quite healthy. Our revenues have more than tripled annual revenue collection. Therefore, it gives us the amount of money available for development projects in Pakistan has gone up from 80 to 520, which is about 600%. So these figures, ladies and gentlemen, are stunning. Even we, Shaukat and I, were surprised how we are achieving all this. God has been kind. We worked honestly and sincerely. And I think Pakistan had the resources and the potential to rise. Therefore, we performed. So this is the economic aspect. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that the Karachi Stock Exchange, which is the indicator of the economic stability, economic resilience, economic strength of the nation, is the best performing stock exchange of the world. It has risen 14 times over these 7-8 years. The Karachi Stock Exchange Index has risen 14 times, from 1,000 to 14,000. And in spite of whatever you may be hearing, it maintains 14,000. So that is the fact of the matter, that the confidence of the people, international community within the economy of Pakistan, it remains stable. So this much for the economy, ladies and gentlemen. I would say in this Beyond 99, we analyzed why democracy in Pakistan was failing. Why is it that we go into martial laws? And let me tell you that we introduced the essence of democracy. It may be appearing odd to you that a military man or an ex-military man, I have doffed my uniform, is talking of democracy. Yes, indeed. We introduced the essence of democracy. We empowered the people of Pakistan through introducing a new local government system, which gave representation and power, empowered the people at the grassroots level, financially, administratively, and politically. We empowered the women of Pakistan. We empowered them by giving them fixed seats at every level. At the local level, 33%, 1/3 of seats are reserved for women. At the National Assembly, 72 out of our 342 members are women, 22%. 17% are reserved, remaining they can contest against men. We have empowered the minorities of Pakistan by giving them joint electorates. And we have a very independent election commission. We have set rules and regulations which ensure fair and transparent elections. I could answer any questions on that. Then, on human rights issues, freedom of speech, individual liberties, civil liberties, whatever you want to call them, let me assure you that we encourage that, and we really introduced that. The media was never independent. There was only one television, the state-run Pakistan television. We opened it out. Today there are 50 channels running. And if you read our newspapers and television, there's full of criticism against me. And thank you, Ikram, for saying that, yes, I read your article which was criticizing me once, or the policy, not me. But that doesn't matter at all. These are free views that anyone expresses, and we don't mind that at all. So therefore, we liberated the media, I would say. I won't go into the major achievements in our social sector, the health sector, education sector, poverty alleviation, reduction in unemployment. major achievements in all these sectors. I'll leave it at that. We fought terrorism and extremism. We are fighting terrorism and extremism. At the strategic, we have a strategy. We maybe are the only country in the world which has strategized fight against terrorism, differentiated what is terrorism and extremism, and adopted a multi-pronged strategy, understanding fully what is Al-Qaeda, what is Taliban, and what is extremism in the society. And we have strategized each one of them. And we are going on that strategy. I'll talk about what we've done a little later. With all this, what we are doing in Pakistan, beyond 9/11, ladies and gentlemen, the world saw upheaval and turmoil. We contributed substantially in trying to bring peace in the Muslim world, in our region, and also maybe ideas on the world, peace, bringing peace and harmony to the world. Starting from the world and the Muslim world, we propounded the idea of enlightened moderation as a double-pronged strategy to bring peace. While we proposed restructuring of the OIC so that we can reject terrorism and extremism and go for socio-economic development. In our region, we went for a rapprochement with India. The decades of conflict, 3 wars, we've gone for peace. And I think we made good headway on a bilateral basis. Again, done by a person who's fought 2 wars with the Indians. I have fought 2 of the 3 wars. So we have gone for peace. So this is our contribution to peace in the world and in the region. Everything, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, was going very well for Pakistan. And we were economically progressing, domestically, peace, we are trying to bring peace into the region, fighting terrorism, Al-Qaeda and extremism. Things, I would say, started going wrong, going awry last year, 2007. Now these were the misperceptions and misunderstandings. They were negative aspersions, still continue in the foreign media against Pakistan, against me, against the army, against the inter-service intelligence. So I would like to ask what went wrong. Have I changed? Am I playing some kind of a double role? Am I some kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? And no, sir, I am the same. I am the same person. I have the same views and same vision. But I always keep saying in Pakistan, Pakistan comes first. I do everything for Pakistan. And I try to rise beyond myself. What are the West's concerns and alarms now? And let me touch on them very frankly. The first concern is the judicial crisis, the sacking of the Chief Justice of Pakistan. I would like to ask you, what would you do in your country if your Chief Justice is corrupt, is politicized, is nepotistic? I don't want to get into details. Is anyone above the law in your country? in our country, we have a constitution of our own, not written by me. In that constitution, there is a methodology of dealing with any judge or chief justice. And that methodology says that the case should be referred to a Supreme Judicial Council, not made by me. It is in this Constitution of Pakistan. So what happened really, we saw all these reports coming, all this performance, not over one night, but over months. And then the Prime Minister sent a reference to me against the Chief Justice. And I, according to the law of the land and the Constitution of Pakistan, handed that reference over to the Supreme Judicial Council. What wrong have we done? Nothing. We followed the Constitution of Pakistan. But then all hell, it was all politicized and many things happened. And things kept going on. It was made into a political issue because we were into elections now. This was an election year. It went so bad that a situation came now, and I would ask you again, what would you do now if the government, the functioning of the government, the executive pillar was totally paralyzed, semi-paralyzed I would say, because of the same Chief Justice of Pakistan? When the sovereignty of the parliament was challenged and violated, in that the parliament elected me as the president with 57% vote, and when I say parliament, then the Senate, the National Assembly and 4 provincial assemblies, and they did not allow it to be notified. What will you do if the law enforcement agencies, because of distorted judgments, were totally demoralized, and the terrorists got encouraged, very encouraged? They increased their activity, spread into the settled districts of Pakistan in the frontier province, and the suicide bombings increased because they saw the weakness in the government. The public got despondent and demoralized totally, and the democratic process, the elections that were to be held, were totally derailed. Under these circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, what would one do? And frankly, I therefore was confronted with an extraordinary situation needing extraordinary measures, to the extent that I thought that maybe Pakistan is endangered, and therefore the emergency was declared to rectify the situation. And we rectified the situation, and we are back on track on the democratic transition. And now elections are to be held on 18 February, and they will be free, fair and transparent. The other issue that concerns the world is our nuclear capability, safeguards, a perception that these can fall into terrorist hands. Nothing can be farther from the truth. These are statements by people who don't understand what we've done. Our nuclear assets, first of all, we should know our capability is deterrence, defensive deterrence. They are not offensive, they are defensive because of the threat that was posed in the region on Pakistan, on our existence. Leave that aside, but now they are under strong, multi-layered custodial controls. We have created a strategic plans division, a secretariat which which centralizes their security, their finances, and the entire aspect of their development. Then the assets that we have, we created a force called Army Strategic Force Command. It is like a corps headquarters of the army, having 2 divisions under it, each division having brigades under it, each brigade having regiments under it. And these assets are held by this force. I would challenge anyone to come to Pakistan and take one rifle out of an infantry battalion of Pakistan. So these come under such custodial control, and it is not possible at all for anyone for them falling into wrong hands, unless either they defeat the Pakistan army, or they win in these elections and form the government. I am talking of the terrorists. That is not possible. I put 0% chance of that. So therefore, let me assure you that these are in very, very strong hands. There is concern about the elections. If anyone asks me, I will tell you, but main thing that I want to tell you that the democratic process is back on rail. Elections will be held on 18 February. There will be free, fair, and absolutely transparent. Why I say they will be absolutely free, fair, and transparent? Because the system is as such. We put a caretaker government in place. This was never done before. If we hadn't done that, Shaukat Aziz would have continued as Prime Minister, and they would have been the chief ministers who would be the same people. We thought give fairness to the opposition, have a caretaker government. There was an issue of gerrymandering of constituencies. We said no, we will not allow any delimitation of constituencies, not allowed at all. There was the issue of ghost polling stations. The Election Commission has notified the polling stations and put it on the internet. The issue of electoral rolls, gerrymandering there, they have been notified and put on the internet. Anyone can read, anyone can see, and complain where do they have any faults. There was the issue of election results being manipulated between the returning officer and Election Commission en route. The new law which we introduced, let the returning officer declare the result and hand over the result to the candidate. There is an issue at the polling station where people come to vote. There are polling agents of every candidate who sits right there, and they see the presiding officer show them the ballot box empty, seal the ballot box. Balloting takes place in front of those polling agents of the candidates. The counting takes place in front of them. So I would like to ask, where is the fraud? Where is rigging possible? I know many people saying that this will be rigged. I know of some documents that somebody has written that they will be rigged. I would like to challenge and ask them, give me one point where they will be rigged. And I can assure you that I would like to send it to the Election Commission, Chief Election Commissioner, for implementation or removing of that complaint. Nobody till now has given me one point of how they'll be rigged, so that we amend and we improve ourselves. They will not be rigged, and they will be fair. And whoever wins in the election, whether it is the opposition or the government coalition, ruling coalition, will form the government. And let me also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we run a parliamentary system. A lot of people in the interviews are asking me about many things, that how I will form the coalition. It's not my job. I've been elected by the parliament. I am the president. Coalition has to be between the prime minister the political parties. So this is how coalitions will take place. So that much for the democratic part. I'll skip the war on terror, except I've told you whatever I've said. I reject any accusations of ISI or army or government foot dragging, not having their heart in it. These are aspersions in the media, let me also say, but these are not aspersions at the official levels. We have total cooperation at the intelligence level with the United States. We have strategic and tactical cooperation with forces on ground in Afghanistan and operating in Pakistan. There is no problem. But we hear a lot of problems in the media, all right. We are following, I just want to add one thing, we are following a multi-pronged strategy to address this issue. It has a military element, it's a political element, and a socio-economic element. And we are doing pretty well in our fight against terrorism. The last concern is Benazir's assassination, Benazir Bhutto's assassination, again aspersions on intelligence, on the government, on me. I don't think any intelligence organization of Pakistan is capable of indoctrinating a single man for suicide, for blowing himself up. I don't give the capability at all to any of our intelligence organizations. So these are aspersions. We are investigating, and we've got Scotland Yard to investigate, because that is an area where maybe we had weakness in the forensic side, in the technical side, and we thought if we got them, we will improve the investigation. We have to come to how she was assassinated and who assassinated her. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to, I think what we are facing today, when I said misperceptions, a misperception that Pakistan is destabilized, and it appears that people in the media have started thinking that we are maybe going to break up or something. Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, has a government, a functioning government, a very strong military. The courts are functioning, democracy is functioning, elections are to be held, business is booming, economy is growing, as I said. So where lies the problem? Just because there are a few suicide bombs, and that too from one source, and we know the source, and we will deal with that source. Is the nation of 160 million going to break up? No, sir, these are just aspersions. And let me tell you with all my conviction that there is 0% chance of any kind of this thing happening. There certainly is a degree of political turbulence. It has happened because of the assassination of Benazir Bhutto. It has happened because two of our political leaders were outside the country. One of them, Benazir Bhutto, on her own, she left I think in '97, and she came back. The other one left through a deal himself, and since they have both come back on a course of political reconciliation, there is a degree of hype. But that doesn't mean that anything will happen. There will be elections, and whoever wins forms government, and if they don't, if we have a hung parliament, there will be a coalition, and there will be a prime minister. And in our constitution, the prime minister governs the country, and the president has his own sphere of activity, his own powers, but the Prime Minister is the main person who runs the government, and that is how it will run. The question of whether I will allow that, how can I deny that? How can I prevent it? So whoever comes will be the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister and President have to coexist. Let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen. I know I have taken a long time. First of all, I believe that we all owe it to the world to bring peace and harmony. And I believe that Palestine's resolution lies at the core. And I believe that European Union and the Muslim world beyond the Arab world have a definite role to play towards bringing peace. The other point I want to make is that Pakistan is on the forefront fighting terrorism. We are doing our best. We know the strategy, and let me tell you, in Pakistan, we are doing pretty all right, pretty well. And I would urge everyone to help us instead of criticizing and undermining our efforts. And we can be helped through addressing the issue of poverty, illiteracy, because that is the long-term aspect of dealing with extremism and terrorism. And therefore, when we talk of market access into the European Union, when we are trying to encourage investment into Pakistan, we are talking of job creation. Therefore, unemployment reduction, and therefore poverty alleviation, and therefore striking at the root of extremism and terrorism. To help us, please. That is the message that I would like to leave. And lastly, may I say, ladies and gentlemen, we in Pakistan are living in the fire of terrorism and extremism, and we are dealing with it effectively. You merely in Europe or the West may be getting a part of the heat. So therefore, please understand us, support us, and encourage us. Because if we fail, maybe its effects will be felt in the streets of Europe. It's a serious business. And I think the entire media, the world media, and the Pakistani media, and the world community must understand what we are up against. Let me also assure you that governments in the West, leaders in the West, understand it. The problem is of perceptions, distorted perceptions. I have met the French president. I talked to President Bush. I have spoken to the British Prime Minister so many times. I'm going to meet him now. I have met Mr. Solana. All of them are very satisfied. All of them are totally supportive on whatever we are doing. All of them show solidarity with me and Pakistan. So what is the issue? Where is the issue? All the intelligence heads have met me. They are fully satisfied. We only coordinate how to improve operations, how to perform better, how to integrate better. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are perceptions which unfortunately tend to be stronger than facts and realities. And the media has a strong role to play in creating perceptions. So I am very confident, ladies and gentlemen, that we will handle this situation in Pakistan. We will handle it well. We have to achieve economic upsurge, maintain the economic upsurge. We have to defeat terrorism and extremism. And we have to, through the elections, bring a stable political government into Pakistan. These are the three objectives. If we achieve these, and I'm sure we'll achieve them, we will go on the path and Pakistan will keep rising and we will succeed against the challenges that confront us. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
With the President's permission, we now request question and answers, few question and answers. Please identify yourself and get a mic across to you. There's a mic here. Get somebody to get a mic from me. Yeah. And please keep the question short and identify yourself, please. And after the question and answer, the President will kindly allow me a last word before you leave. Thank you.
Pino Buongiorno from Panorama Magazine of Italy. Mr. President, what kind of mistakes did you make in the past year? And which is your relations with the Army? I mean, the former officers and the current officers. Thank you.
I didn't make any mistakes. But I would admit that I didn't know that the fallout of our decision will be as severely politicized as it happened. So while we moved against the judiciary, which was absolutely constitutional, as I told you, but the fallout was very violent. And its politicization was violent. The mistake, if I was to tell you, and I would say in the West, again, you will come out with civil liberties and human rights and all that, we should not have allowed any agitation on the political front. But we allowed it in the name of let there be freedom. And that kept snowballing into a disastrous magnitude. So with hindsight, if the same situation was to come around, I will not allow agitation. Agitation in Pakistan, sir, is what? It's not like maybe in Paris where placards will come, thousands of people come and they go back. The streets are very clean, everything is normal. Agitation in Pakistan means burning of cars, destroying all the traffic lights, burning of offices, destruction and mayhem. One cannot allow anarchy. It leads to anarchy. And if there are political forces who are encouraging anarchy to undermine government or me or anything, should we allow that in the name of human rights, in the name of liberty? So this is what I keep saying. Human rights, liberty is certainly essential, and we are for it. But every country has difference in environment. Let us handle our own human rights in the way that we feel right there. The other point of the army, so I've served in this army for 46 years. I've commanded it for 9 years. I am not a paper pusher. I have not been a paper pusher. I've fought wars, I've seen action, I've been with the men in the front. The men know me, and they know what I stand for. They follow me. They have followed me not by my rank. I've never commanded with rank. So I've commanded through leadership. So therefore, even now, the army knows me. And whoever is the army chief, who is a great man, he has served under me. His loyalty to me is personal, as well as greater loyalty and indirect loyalty, where his vision, his understanding of Pakistan, his views for the progress and future of Pakistan, the objectives that we need to achieve are the same as mine. So therefore, he will always remain loyal to me. So the army has the same objectives for Pakistan. So the army will always remain loyal to me. So therefore, the proof of it is that I am sitting comfortably and roaming around for 8 days, whereas the world thinks that Pakistan is disintegrating. Nothing will happen. I know nothing will happen. So I'm very comfortable. So army is for Pakistan. It will never allow Pakistan to disintegrate. That can never happen.
Kenneth Roth, please, you had a question. Yes, there's a mic behind, yeah. And then Trudy Rubin next.
Mr. President, Kenneth Roth from Human Rights Watch. I wanted to continue the conversation from yesterday about the importance of the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary as the only ultimate check on whether you're electoral fraud efforts will be successful or not.
Anti?
Electoral fraud, the steps you outlined yesterday to avoid fraud, and the ultimate body that will decide whether those were successful or not will be the Supreme Court, so that its independence is absolutely crucial. You had justified firing the Chief Justice on grounds of corruption and nepotism. But my understanding is that he, as well as other members of the Supreme Court and 3 senior lawyers, are all under house arrest right now without criminal charges. You also had said that the reason that you ultimately declared emergency rule and dismissed the court was because they were interfering with anti-terrorism efforts. My understanding is, in fact, what they were doing was ordering people who the ISI had disappeared into unacknowledged custody, ordering them back into the regular criminal justice system. And indeed, that the moment you chose to dismiss the court was the moment when they were about to rule against your ascension to the presidency. So in those circumstances, now that the court has been repopulated with your selections rather than the independent justices, how can we trust that court to give a fair verdict as to whether the election was free and fair or not? And would you, in the spirit of allowing free and fair debate, remove the house arrest restrictions on the various lawyers and judges?
Right. First of all, let me tell you, sir, that you belong to a human rights organization. Please don't impose Western human rights considerations and standards on the whole world. Please understand that Pakistan has a different environment. You belong to Europe, you have a different environment. African countries have different environments. China has a different environment. And we have to work on human rights in accordance with that environment. So your error, may I point out, is always that you try to impose your views on every environment, that this is the way human rights functions. No, sir, it does not function that way. It functions in accordance with our environment. Now, if somebody, whether he is anybody, is trying to create such anarchy that maybe Pakistan's integrity is at stake, maybe our economy will go down to a stage where economically we'll collapse, I don't consider any human rights in such situations. We will deal with it whatever it costs, because Pakistan is more important than human rights. Human rights serves Pakistan. Pakistan does not serve human rights. So let's be clear on this aspect. So therefore now, let me answer your questions. Now about the judiciary. Yes, indeed, I've told you how the Chief Justice was. Would you like to challenge? No, he is not like that. And if he is like that, why should we not remove him? Or should we continue because human rights? With a Chief Justice who is paralyzing the government, no, we will not continue with him. Therefore, we find ways of how to do it. And it is not for myself that I did it, I beg to differ. Whatever I did for Pakistan. The easiest thing for me to do, if I were to tell you, was to come on television and say I've worked hard for 7-8 years and thank you very much, I'm leaving. Let me assure you that was the easiest course for me. But that would have led to more chaos than you can ever imagine. I don't think you have worked out on what chaos could have followed, because you are more concerned about human rights, as you see in the West. It would have led to chaos, certainly, and that is our judgment, and therefore we had to adopt these measures. The other thing that I want to tell you is, now, yes, I'm reminded of one more thing. Now, again on the one man in Swat, when we are talking of terrorism and the extension of terrorism into settled districts, there was one man, Fazlullah, who was using FM radio and indoctrinating, inciting people towards terrorism, towards the government, towards the stability, towards causing instability in Pakistan. You tell me on human rights, we should not have touched him. He's running an FM radio, he's talking. Why should we attack him? Why should we remove him? That is his view. He's explaining on the FM radio. He was putting fire into the illiterate people in that area. Therefore, we moved against him, sir, with a division. Why don't you call it a violation of human rights? Yes, we violated human rights. We violated his liberty. He cannot do this. He cannot destroy Pakistan. So therefore, we did it. It may be his view, but his view is going against the integrity of Pakistan. Therefore, we will not allow it. So therefore, his FM radios had to be stopped. So where is the human rights then? So therefore, please understand our human rights, our environment. We will, as I said, we will not allow anarchy. Now, if there is a Chief Justice, and as you said, and some of his judges, some of them, who are colluding with a political party, taking part in processions with flags of that political party, where is the independence of this judiciary? Where is it? Maybe it doesn't happen in your country, sir. It happens in Pakistan. Where does the human rights go? What should you do about it? Is that the judiciary that we want? Now, when you say that I picked, no, sir, I haven't picked anyone. We got rid of the cancer, and whoever was left is there. I haven't appointed them. They were there. According to the procedure, they had to take oath. Those who did not take oath were the ones who were with the Chief Justice, with that Chief Justice. And they didn't take oath. Otherwise, had they taken oath, they would have been there. So they didn't come by their own selves. But remaining are there, and now they've taken oath on the Constitution. So please understand our environment and our situation. And please don't impose your views on human rights everywhere around the world. Please learn to do that. Please learn the environment of individual countries and then talk.
Trudy?
Trudy Rubin, the Philadelphia Inquirer. Mr. President, the problems in Fatah have been growing for the past 2 years, even before the troubles of recent months in Pakistan. And terrorists were regrouping. Mr. Fazlullah was already out in SWAT making trouble. The radio broadcasts were going on for a long time. They weren't stopped. Deals were made with tribal leaders who now we know are central to the problem. So can you please tell us what were you doing wrong for those 2 years that enabled that to spread long before the Chief Justice was sacked and Ms. Bhutto was murdered? And what are you going to do differently now that would change the situation?
Okay. Yes, you're right. We were dealing. We had political. When I say that we have to go on a multi-pronged path, we have to go on a political path also. Now, what was the political path and why? Why is the necessity of a political path? There is a population. Now, there is Al-Qaeda, who are foreigners, and we have to defeat them militarily. But when we talk of Taliban, Taliban are our own people. Taliban mainly are across in Afghanistan, but their supporters are from our own people, especially in South and North Waziristan. But every Pashtun is not a Taliban. So therefore, our strategy was, while we fight militarily against the militant Taliban, we have to wean away the population from those militant Taliban. Don't leave the entire population at their mercy so that they keep drawing them. After all, they are illiterate people, and there is poverty there also. There is socio-economic deprivation. So let us wean them away from militancy. Therefore, we had to deal with somebody. Now, who is that somebody that we need to deal with? Within the population, we thought those who are against militancy, even though the person may be a cleric, Let's deal with them. We may have gone wrong there. There may have been some double crossers with whom we dealt. But if you asked me whether we succeeded, no, I will not be able to say we succeeded. Yes, indeed, there was failure. But if you ask me whether we should abandon the path of this dealing politically, no, we should not. Because no military will lead to ultimate success. I gave you the example of Afghanistan in 1989. Military is not the ultimate success. Political success has to be achieved. So therefore, we have to go on the political path. We may have erred, but we still are going on the political path. We'll keep correcting course, but we need to go on the political path. When you talk of Fazlullah and action against him, in the frontier province, the government was of MMA, which is the religious group.
Allied with your government party.
Yes, yes. Oh, no, not in MMA was not allied. In frontier, they had formed. They were in opposition. Sorry, no. In Baluchistan they were in coalition, but in frontier, MMA is the religious government. Now, you cannot use the army unless the army is requisitioned, and the frontier government was not requisitioning the army. The moment we imposed the emergency, we moved and we acted against Fazlullah. They were dealing with Fazlullah. I wouldn't say that they were doing it wrongly. They were trying to have a political dealing with Fazlullah to bring normalcy into his attitudes. But the man was not understanding. So therefore, and he went into the militant path. He even brought militant Taliban, people supporting him from Bajaur tribal agency. They joined, and I believe some Uzbeks also joined. And they started spreading into the area of Swat, which is our tourist area, maybe the most beautiful area in the world. And the people of Swat really were totally, they were asking us to act. And it is the people of Swat with the army that we defeated Fazlullah, and he's on the run. So why we delayed was really the political environment in the province.
Mr. Ron, yes. You had a question?
So I'm Shobna Bhartiya from the Hindustan Times, India. My question to you, sir, is that in a power sharing agreement between the President and the Prime Minister, with the President coming in through an indirect election and the Prime Minister duly through an electoral process, and yet the President can dismiss the Prime Minister and the National Assembly. Sir, when you talk of the true essence of democracy, why did you not bring about the constitutional amendment that was there during Nawaz Sharif's, where the President does not have the right to dismiss a duly elected Prime Minister? How does that reflect the true will of the people? And yet you talk about returning to the essence of democracy, when the duly elected Prime Minister will have little or no power.
Okay. Now, let me put certain facts correct. The Prime Minister is not directly elected. It is the assemblies, the MNAs. The Prime Minister is elected only by the National Assembly of Pakistan.
Which is through the people.
Yes. And the President is elected by the Senate, National Assembly, and 4 provincial assemblies of Pakistan. Do you know that? That is the reality. So who is more representative? Tell me who is more representative?
So the same assembly elects
Okay.
the president.
Okay. So therefore, you don't know your facts. The Prime Minister is only elected by the National Assembly. The President is elected by the 6 assemblies of Pakistan. Now, having said that, now let's come to the powers. That the Prime Minister wields entire power of governance. When you say that Prime Minister is powerless, what is power? What is power? Power is to, and what is governance? How do you govern a nation? You govern a nation through a cabinet, ministers, the ministries, the secretaries, and you have various organizations, institutions within the government that function. Who meets the President? I have never once met the cabinet. I have no right to meet the cabinet. The cabinet is not under me. The ministers do not function under me. The prime minister meets the cabinet every week and more if required. He passes orders to the ministries. Ministers act in their ministries. President does not even visit a single ministry. He is not supposed to. So please understand what is governance, how you govern a country. Country is governed entirely by the prime minister because he is the head of the cabinet. He runs the government through the cabinet, through the ministries. President does not interfere at all in governance. So all the powers of governance rest with the prime minister. Now, where does the president come in? Yes, indeed, you've said it, that the president can dissolve the assembly. Yes, that is there. And that is our environment, that is our constitution. I haven't made that. This Article 58(2)(b) existed in our constitution before. And I think it has certain value. It has a value to exercise a check on a misperforming prime minister. And in our history of 11 years, from 88 to 99, the years of democracy, where twice Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto was Prime Minister and twice Nawaz Sharif was Prime Minister, the country went down when it was a failed state in 1999. Now, in each one of them, the Prime Minister did not serve for more than 2.5 years or 3 years, 2 to 3 years, because of their misperformance. What we have done, because we saw that this led to a clash between President and Prime Minister, while President used to tell the Prime Minister that he or she is not performing well, the Prime Minister used to take an affront, and there was always a confrontation between President and Prime Minister. Always, every time in these 11 years. 4 times in these 11 years to be exact. And it led to dissolution of the parliament. We have introduced a National Security Council, and that is the amendment that we have brought in. This National Security Council, with the President in the chair, has the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Senate Chairman, Speaker of National Assembly, all the 4 Chief Ministers and the military men as members. Now, this was done with the idea that no president should take a decision impulsively on dissolving the assembly. And it was also taken with the idea that no army chief should impulsively come and impose martial law. He will have to come to this forum to convince everyone on how it should be done. And that no prime minister should misperform. At least he should be answerable to this forum. So this is what we have done. And I think it suits our environment. It will function very well, I think.
One last question only, because time is getting. One question, that's it. Sorry, because the helipad waiting.
Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. One of the other big issues in the West, particularly the United States, has been these calls for U.S. military forces to go into Pakistan to help in the war on terrorism. The U.S. Defense Secretary, Mr. Gates, even said yesterday that if Pakistan wanted help, the United States would certainly be willing to do it. I wonder if you could comment on this latest offer and your views on this issue.
Yes. Ma'am, there are 2 issues involved. One is the military aspect, and the other is the political aspect. Let me take the military aspect first of all. That whether what we are not achieving, supposedly, can be achieved by US forces. Let me tell you with all my professional expertise that whatever I have, no ma'am, this cannot be done by any US force. Please don't think that the US forces have some kind of a magic wand and they'll come and lead to success. Please understand that this environment is worse than what they are facing in Afghanistan. The mountains are higher, and there is no communication infrastructure. This communication infrastructure was not built during the British colonial days. There used to be only one road, and the British Army soldiers were not supposed to leave that road. They can only travel through on that road. That was the agreement with the tribal chiefs there. This continued for centuries. It continued as such now. Till we went in, I think in 2001, I sent in the army with dealing with the tribal chiefs that we want to bring you out of the stone age that you are living. We would like to build roads for you. We want to build hospitals and schools for you. Literacy level is 2 or 3% there. So in this environment, let me tell you with full conviction and sincerity, and if you ask the US forces, please ask the US force commander, I am very sure they'll say, please, we have our hands full, don't put us into more trouble into sending into those mountains. So let me assure you, there is total cooperation. Having said that, whenever we act here, there is a strategic level and tactical level coordination on both sides of the border. And we feel happy, and the forces across feel happy, ISAF and US forces. We have coordination on the intelligence level, very good coordination. And we are quite happy. We are quite happy whenever we deal with at the army level, with between there is a tripartite conference that we hold, and I have been in it many times. Everyone is very happy. I don't know what is the problem with the media that we carry on bombarding this, that the forces should go across the border. They wouldn't be able to achieve anything that we haven't been able to achieve. So let them handle Afghanistan. They need more force there, by the way. So therefore, please add force there before you think of sending them across into our borders. So this is the reality, military reality. The other is the political reality. Please understand that every country has certain sensitivities. And our sensitivity to the man in the street, we don't want any foreign troops in Pakistan. The man in the street will not allow this. He will come out and agitate. So please understand our sensitivities and my sensitivity and the leader's sensitivity. And I can assure you that your leaders understand this sensitivity. Maybe it is the media which doesn't understand the sensitivity. The President Bush is not asking me anything of this sort. President Bush has told me that we recognize the sovereignty of your state. So there is no problem, please. And if at all we need something that we can get from the United States, which will assist us in our operations and which will make us stronger, let me tell you that we ask for it and we get it. So please understand that.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think things are late. I thank all of you. I apologize to Madhur. I didn't ask this question. I also want to recognize Ahmed Rashid, one of our intellectuals here who came, and this thing. And thank you all for coming and honoring me.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was indeed a pleasure. I did get into some kind of emotional outburst also, but I don't know. I do get concerned when Pakistan is involved. Thank you very much.